Oh, okay. Is it good? All right. So, hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the regular governing board meeting of the Cabrillo Unified School District. Today is May 16, 2019, and we are at 7:10 p.m. Thank you for everyone's patience, starting a little bit late as we're getting the translation devices up and running today. So we will reconvening the open session. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, I'm sorry, we'll report the action from closed session if applicable. There was no action taken. So we'll go to action, to item number 6, the Pledge of Allegiance. So everybody please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, item number 7, adoption of agenda as presented or amended. Do we have a motion to do so? So moved. Okay, do we have a second? Everyone in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, passes 5 + 1 to 0. Item number 8, student, student staff community recognition. Since there are none listed for today, we'll move to item number 9. So item number 9 is comments from the public related to items not on this agenda. So as you all know, members of the public are invited to come to our board meetings and speak. We usually allocate about 3 minutes per person to come in and speak with the board, and by law we are not permitted to respond to comments, although we will certainly receive them, and follow-up will be happen as necessary through the district. So thank you for those who have requested time to speak today. It's a long list, so everyone be prepared. We'll start with Nicole Anissa Tatum. Please come up to the microphone up here, and there's a little smiley face with like little lines sticking out of it. You can press that button. There we go. It's just the kids. Okay. So we are happy that you're here and would love to hear what you have to say.
Good evening. My name is Anissa Eastbrat. I'm a 5th grader at El Granada Elementary. My friends and I are concerned about the amount of plastic in the environment, especially the ocean. Did you know that almost 12 million tons of plastic goes into the ocean each year? We would like to put the idea out there that the schools need recycling in their multi-use rooms and on the playgrounds, as well as a way to reduce the amount of waste. I think that if you looked, you'd see the huge amounts of waste from our school lunches. Kids throw away edible, untouched food instead of bringing it home or sharing it. And kids are throwing away items that can be recycled. They are also throwing away much packaging instead of using reusable containers that won't end up in the landfill.
Hello, my name is Nicole Hide. I'm a 5th grader at El Granada. Did you know that 9/10 of all solid waste in the U.S. does not get recycled? That's too much. As Anissa said, there's way too much waste at our school. So what do we do about it? We have some ideas we would like for you to consider. First, we feel that kids and families need to be educated about sending kids to school with food packaging that is more environmentally friendly. For example, using reusable containers. Second, we feel that the schools can work on educating parents about talking to the kids about what they want in their lunches and snacks. For example, the parents may think that their children are eating that apple each day, but really it's getting thrown away, uneaten. We feel that kids and parents should be encouraged to have an open conversation about what the child really will eat and to bring home uneaten food so someone else can eat it. This will reduce waste.
Hi, my name is Tatum Mullins. I'm a 5th grader at El Granada. Did you know that by 2050 there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish? That's unacceptable, and we can do something about it. We can make a difference by adding recycling bins and compost bins to the garbage cans. We can clearly label each bin with words and pictures of what goes in each bin so that kids of all ages can look and see where to put their items. Also, the little kids can be trained by the oldest kids and their teachers so that the kids grow up knowing what to do after they eat. from kindergarten through 5th grade and hopefully beyond elementary school. Thank you for listening to our presentation. Have a good evening.
Thanks very much. Sure. Thank you very much. All right, our next speaker is Guillermo Vasquez. Please come to the podium.
Good evening, President Lane and members of the board. My name is Guillermo Vasquez, and along with my colleagues Norma Miramontes and Belinda Arriaga, we represent the Moonridge community, the Alas community, the Latino Advisory Council as well. Our presence is bolstered, as you can see, by parents of the Fair Longview ELAC committee, who I am speaking on behalf of this evening. We are here tonight to enthusiastically champion Mr. Cesar Gaitan, principal of Fair Longview Elementary, because he exemplifies excellence as an educator. Mr. Gaitan is a purposeful principal whose passion for community brings about his unifying leadership. He enriches his school climate by fostering common ground among the inclusive community. Mr. Gaitan excels at listening attentively with courteous thought, generously giving his time to appreciate a person's perspective. He is a noble, exemplary role model with integrity, demonstrating exceptional character in guiding the school community to achieve successful outcomes for all students and their families. As principal, Mr. Gaitan encourages us and makes us feel welcome and engaging with our children's education. As parents, Mr. Gaitan has taken the time to outreach, extending personal invitations to get involved in school functions. He organized several family literacy nights at school and in the Moonridge community, offering ways for parents to engage with their children in a fun and educational fashion. Based on parents' feedback at an ELAC meeting, Mr. Gaitan hosted an informational workshop on high school A through G requirements called Path to Success that introduced many parents for the first time on how their child could be college and career ready. This has made parents aware of their role as their children's first teacher and their ability to support their children throughout educational milestones. We feel empowered to continue supporting our children's education with Mr. Gaitan's guidance at Fair Longview Elementary. And while we do have the regular challenge of ensuring that our students ride the bus safely to and from school, upon the request of parents to improve the orderly process of the bus pickup and drop-off at Moonridge, Mr. Gaitan implemented this process to help parents in the early morning hours prepare for these procedures for bus arrival. A school staff member is also supporting the bus to Fair Longview in a timely procedure. As parents of the Fair Longview ELAC committee, we feel more comfortable contributing to the discussion on how to improve our school. We understand that we can act as partners in our children's education, fortifying the school climate. At ELAC meetings, we are able to communicate our needs and contribute to playing an active role in our school's decision-making process. Finally, we are grateful to Mr. Gaitan for his dedication to our school community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Guillermo. Next speaker is Rosalba Mendez.
Despacio. Usted siga, yo se puede ir de correcto.
Pero yo diría en español y usted me puede escribir.
Claro que sí.
Okay.
So I'm going to do the reverse here. I'm going to translate into English.
Thank you so much. My name is Rosalba Mendez. I am a mother of 3 kids. Both of 3 going to Fair Longview, and they are really successful guys. I'm really proud of they come from First and Fair Longview, and they are already going in Cunha. And I love the process. They saw them grown up to successful person. Okay, so now I speak in Spanish, sorry. Celebrar la autenticidad de todos los demás no es malo.
To celebrate authenticity. Celebrating authenticity is a positive thing.
El juicio es una herramienta muy destructiva actualmente.
Judgment can be destructive.
Nosotros hemos dejado la empatía a un lado y no permitimos la autenticidad en otros.
When we put empathy aside and we do not allow room for other people to be empathetic,
por el miedo a ver en la sociedad una transformación a la que no estábamos acostumbrados.
this might be out of fear when we see a society that is being transformed and it doesn't look like what we are used to seeing.
Los niños aprenden cuando están motivados.
Children learn when they are motivated.
Cuando te enfocas en encontrar la motivación de tus hijos o tus alumnos, todo cambia.
When they are focused in finding our children's motivation, everything changes.
Cuando aprendes a formar una unidad entre escuela y familia, aprovecharás las diferentes maneras de crear hijos exitosos.
When we are able to find a unifying agent that will bring parents, community, and school together, we're going to be successful.
Alumnos exitosos.
We want successful students.
Todos los niños son diferentes,
Children are different,
pero influye mucho qué hay detrás de ellos.
but it is very important to find out what is supporting them.
Sus familias, sus hábitos, qué tipo de creencias,
Their families, their habits, and their beliefs,
qué cosas están teniendo en su entorno de desarrollo.
and what is encouraging them in their surroundings to foster their development.
Cuando existe una comunicación clara, precisa, positiva
When we have positive communication and it is clear
y no racial,
and it is non-racial,
puedes acceder a la información de qué pasa con tus hijos y cuáles son sus necesidades.
you can access information about your children and their needs.
Debemos enseñar a los niños que en medio de nuestras diferencias podemos tener una buena conexión.
Let us teach our children that besides the differences that there are among us, we can have a communication pathway.
Empatía por los maestros,
Empathy for our teachers,
por los compañeros.
for our peers.
Como adultos debemos tener empatía con nuestro entorno, con las culturas y con las etnias.
It is important for us as adults to set up a role model on how to be empathetic to other cultures around us.
Estoy escuchando muchos comentarios raciales hacia las personas latinas principalmente.
I have been hearing a lot of racially motivated comments that are directed towards Latinos.
Nosotros en Farlon View tenemos un director latino
We at Farallon View have a Latino principal,
y lamentablemente los comentarios más raciales son hacia él.
and regretfully, I have heard some derogatory, racially motivated messages that are directed towards him.
Pero me he preguntado qué se obtendría si llegaran a cambiar un principal latino.
And I wonder what would they achieve if they were able to move the principal.
¿Qué va a cambiar en una escuela?
What will change about the school?
¿Cómo transformarán los aspectos raciales negativos en empatía con el entorno?
How can we turn around racially motivated comments into empathy?
Tal vez un director sí iría,
Maybe we can get another principal,
pero no lo que uno lleva dentro,
But
la
not-
ira, el racismo, todo lo que se está viviendo.
but how do we address anger, resentment?
Cuando los niños vienen de un entorno positivo se nota,
When children come from a positive environment, we can notice.
pero cuando ellos vienen de un entorno destructivo y con ataques raciales se nota aún más.
And yet, when they are exposed to a racially charged environment, they can feel it.
Los niños recordarán el proceso que los ayudó a desarrollar su comprensión
Children will remember this process, and I hope that it will help them to better understand
y la tolerancia con el mundo,
and how to be more tolerant
tener
towards
empatía con los que sufren
around us,
bullying
and having empathy for those that are being bullied,
o con los que sufren algún rechazo racial.
or feeling empathetic for those that are being rejected because of their race.
Todas las cosas que hacemos por los niños, ellos se lo llevarán para ser exitosos en un futuro.
Let us remember that everything that we do for children, they will take on with them.
Y es lo que el señor Gaitán hace,
And I feel that that is what Mr. Gaitan does.
luchar porque los niños sean estudiantes exitosos,
He wants our students to be successful
con valores
with values,
fuertes
strong,
y llenos de empatía
and full of empathy.
en un entorno lleno de racismo
And-
que
and-
lamentablemente se está viviendo en la
And in
comunidad.
an environment
Y
that
sería
is
importante
very
que
racially
todos
charged.
volteáramos a ver la ayuda que se necesita.
It is very important for us to turn around and see the help and the support that is needed.
Thank you so much for listening to me.
Gracias.
Our next speaker is Marta Gardner.
Hello, thank you for taking our comments tonight. My name is Marta Gardner. I'm a retired bilingual teacher and literacy expert of 32 years from the Los Angeles Unified School District, living in Half Moon Bay and kind of hiding from Cabrillo Unified, just trying to do some volunteer work. And currently I'm co-directing a volunteer reading program at Moon Ridge Housing Development, which is serving Farallon View students that live at Moon Ridge who are struggling in reading. And so consequently, my experience in these last couple of years has been a powerful one with the new principal, Cesar Gaitan, because we make a connection there to the kids that we're working with twice a week at Farallon View. The power that I see in what he's doing is a relational one. I see his relational focus in knowing and respecting every student in the school. And what I notice with individual students who I won't name, but I can think of so many little faces that have been transformed by that relationship, that it goes beyond any sort of just punitive, disciplinary sort of work, although I'm sure that's involved, but there's something deeper and relational that I feel that Cesar Gaitan is living out the research that we know on resilience, which is that students at risk are going to be turned around most by mentors, by role models, by relationships. And this is what we do in our Moonridge Reading Stars program. We emphasize the relationship between a volunteer tutor and a kid, and that is powerful. You can't change that. That is what Mr. Gaitan lives and breathes. And why? Because he knows them. He sees himself in each student, especially in his Latino students. I can't comment on the others, but he sees himself because he knows what it means to be in their shoes. And so the result is he knows every kid. He knows their name. We can contact him and say, you know what's going on with Joselito? And he'll say, exactly, I know exactly. And without sharing anything confidential, we have his heart. We have the confidence that he is with that kid the way we are with that kid. And we are a team together. The result is that he's very gently and gracefully advocating for equity and excellent education for all of his students. And we as a tutoring program have benefited from his understanding, support, and his gratitude for our partnership with his students, because he sees the importance of the entire village in engaging with each kid. And I really think that if Cabrillo Unified is really committed, as it says on the wall, to valuing distinct cultural identities, to providing, to engaging with the entire Coastside community and partners, that there should be a recognition that this guy, that I can't believe is translating all about himself right now, is a treasure, is a real treasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marta. Next, Jen Forsland. Is that right? Okay. Jen.
My name is Jan Forsland, and I come here with two different hats on. I'm the co-founder with Marta for the Sheriff's Activities League Moon Ridge Reading Stars. It's a program we started 5 years ago, reading intervention. And so I've gotten to know Cesar Gaitan very well. He's been a joy to work with. The other hat I'm wearing is I have a 30-year-old son who went through the school district here. I was really lucky. He's a good student. He got himself into the School of Foreign Service at Georgetown and graduated magna cum laude, so as a mom, I feel like I did something right. And with that hat on, I can say that when he was going through, our son was going through the district, by the time he got to Cunha, I really noticed a disparity in reading levels. I mean, Cunha was great. He loved Cunha. But the language arts were good, but the teachers were faced with this huge disparity with some kids that really couldn't learn, couldn't read, and others who were really talented students like my son. And that really bothered me. When I retired a few years back, and before I started this program, I started volunteering at Farallon View. And by this time, they were busing the Moonridge kids to Farallon View. And so whenever I go in to help the teachers, invariably, I would help a Hispanic student. And I realized this is really still an important issue. And that if we could get these kids reading at grade level, wouldn't that be great? So I approached the Sheriff's Department, we started this program, and Marta and I work with the program together. I've had many chances to interact with Mr. Gaitan. If I have any kind of a problem, he addresses it completely and immediately. He listens closely to what I'm saying. If we see there are problems on the bus and I say something to him, he addresses it. And he really encourages the kids to be a part of the reading program, and he helps back us up in terms of letting the kids know how important it is that they need to learn to read. So I'm here in support of Mr. Gaitan, and I'm just so happy that I have had the opportunity to work with him, and I hope that his opportunity continues.
Thanks, Jan. Our next speaker is Damaris Pyle.
Hello, my name is Damaris Pyle. Thank you for letting me share. I'm here speaking on behalf of ALAS. I work for Belinda Hernandez Arriaga. I'm the clinical supervisor for the newest program of ALAS, which is a counseling program. And thanks to the help of Mr. Gaitan, we've established a counseling program at Farallon View. Mr. Gaitan has been instrumental in helping us set up interns that come into the program, not only that work with the kids at school, but also work with the families at Moonridge to provide a full wraparound service to help support the educational success of the students at Farallon. And I've been working in the schools for over 20 years, and I am very impressed with Mr. Gaitan's approach of integrating the two communities and addressing issues, and it would be a huge loss for us to lose him. So thank you.
Thank you, Damaris. And next is Cecilia Mello.
Hi, good evening. It's nice to see you all. I think, echoing a lot of what's been said. My role is slightly different. I work in the library at Farallon View. It's my 4th year now. And I see a lot of things that maybe parents don't always see, so a lot of the groundwork that gets done that might be invisible to some of the parents and even other folks. What I see with Mr. Gaitan, that he's really been an advocate for the children, and sometimes the more vulnerable children, in my mind, like the special needs kids or people that are struggling academically, and really gone to bat for them, even when it's, not very glamorous work. There's been I feel an increase in the equity of the campus, and a change in how welcoming the campus is to all families, which I think a lot of families were feeling less welcome at Farallon View than they should have been. I also really like how he has been an educator, teaching parents how to support their children, and maybe something that might be small, but just today I was talking to one of the yard duty supervisors, and a lot of these ladies are not very well paid, and they typically are fairly modest in their background, and sometimes the children do not respect them as they should. And what I found is that Mr. Gaitan will support them. If there's a conflict with the children, he will listen to them and not dismiss them just because they are perhaps of lower status than some of the other folks. And I think that's a really fundamentally important lesson in respecting everybody in your community, not just the people that are high-powered. So I will end there. Thank you.
Thanks, Cecilia. With that, we'll switch topics a bit to, we have two more speakers. One is Lisa Harris, who will speak on safety. And please come to the podium.
Good evening. Sorry, I just came from coaching. I do apologize. First of all, I'd like to address you all as a member of the community, a mother, a coach, and an adult survivor of sexual abuse as a child. Safety issues, classroom environment. Hatch students were subject to inappropriate touching by Amity interns. They were afraid to report to their teachers because they were repeatedly told to sit down and be quiet. This suppression forced them to succumb to continued touching and physical restraints, even while saying no and trying to avoid contact. How will you train teachers to look for inappropriate activity and listen when students try to report problems? Why weren't teachers affected and notified when children had things happen to them so they could be more aware, helpful, compassionate, and better listeners to avoid sexual battery in the future? Safety issue number 2, mental health. After the Amity incidents were reported, a crisis team was available, but the services was refused. Star Vista, Rape Trauma Services, and Behavioral Health all expressed significant concern of postponing emergency assistance at the time, when the children's mental health was the most at risk. By silencing the children, the parents, and families with memos, emails, and messages, the opportunity was lost to connect and to work together and find professionals to help the children. How will you handle mental health if sexual battery happens again? Will you allow crisis intervention? How will you make mental health concerns a priority with students and teachers after an incident? Number 3, reference checks. 0 consequences will be paid for this disgusting and illegal and heinous acts, not just one, that has been committed by a certain intern prior to this intern's assignment was cut short on his other assignment, which means he was laid off, kicked off of his other, not his person, I'm sorry, other assignment in another country. He was reported as his behavior is odd, he did not fit in with other, and was let on campus with a letter and just a Skype call. How will you notify and modify reference checks after this incident? What information did Amity organization provide? How do you screen reference background checks differ for any employee, independent contractor, substitute, parent volunteer like myself? I volunteer for coaching multiple sports. I drive children from all schools to multiple schools, high school, junior high, and elementary. How do you cover that? And vendors, what provides the programs on the campus? How do you know? Final, students affected should be helped immediately using available crisis team. Costs of therapy are expensive. They're years, they're decades. I should know because I still go. And I'm 41 years old. They're not covered by insurance nor reimbursed. Reimbursements will need to be made. That level of pain and suffering and the anxiety and fear experienced following these horrific acts are inexcusable for any child, male or female of any age, under our care, and will affect these children for the rest of their lives as sexual assault does. Today's May 16th, 2019, so 3 to 4 months time should be sufficient enough to discuss and respond these safety questions in writing to September's board meeting. I thank you very much.
much, Lisa. Next up is Grace Ann Stewart.
Thank you. I'm going to lighten the room up a little bit to discuss dogs. We have leash laws in this area, and we also have rules at the schools, and we also have signs posted, but dogs are everywhere on our property. I've approached people, even in AYSO at Cunha, regarding dogs on leash, on the field, off leash, and they say they cannot respond. It's up to the district. So I ask you as the board to please identify the laws or the rules that you have and assign someone responsibility for communicating this to all people and assign someone responsibility for enforcing it. Some children are afraid of dogs. Some children on school property have been charged and knocked over by off-leash dogs, and some kids just don't want to touch your dog. That's it. So I would hope that you can respond by September's meeting and help us keep dogs off school property. I don't think we have a service dog issue here. If a parent needs a service dog to pick up their child, they probably need to have some therapy with their child. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Grace Ann. Okay, and that was the last comment that we have from the public. So folks are definitely welcome to stay, but if folks are not interested to stay, we can take a brief pause for folks to leave the room. So I will pause my speaking for 30 seconds and see what people decide to do. And you're more than welcome to stay. It's going to be a very exciting meeting. It always is. I promise. At least a little exciting. So if you stay, that's great.
I know.
Okay, all right, thank you, everybody. So our next our item is number 10, representative reports. We'll start with CUTA. Is Sean Reardon here, or? Yeah, Sean Reardon. Oh, there you are. Oh, sorry. We will allow, I should have cued you earlier. Good, good.
Governing board members and Superintendent Euster. I don't know if I've addressed the board. Thank you. Since we've had the new board members in. I'm Kathleen Wall. I teach kindergarten, first grade at Hatch Elementary School. And I've worked for the district since 1993. And as my kindergarten and first grade students know, because they have been counting, today was the 162nd day of school. So school is great. Summer vacation is just 18 days away, and the children have a little bit of spring fever. I was very excited to dig into the back of my closet a couple days ago and pull out my rain boots, because there's nothing like a rainy day in elementary school. You might not be aware, but on days that it rains, teachers probably get about a 20-minute break away from kids. That's it. And it's challenging, but the kids are fun, and we love them. Anything we do as classified employees, teachers, administrators, and school board members, we need to do very well. The allocation of our almost $36 million budget needs to ensure that every dollar spent benefits children. If what we do as individuals or a district cannot be proven to have a positive effect on students, we should not bother doing it. Checking off items on a list is not enough. Adopting curriculums, attending meetings and conferences, filling out paperwork, inputting data, everything we do as employees is worthless if the activities we engage in do not have a proven positive effect on student achievement. This is not a suggestion that the aforementioned activities cannot have a positive effect on students. It's just that checking off a completed activity does not signify that our essential goal of educating children is accomplished. We need to hold ourselves to a higher standard. When there are shortfalls in the system dictated by budgeting, priorities, mandates are not funded, and teachers are left holding the bag. When there are not enough classroom funds, when there are not extra supports for children, when there's not fairness, equity, and access for all children, the teachers make it work because the teachers are the program. We need to identify the factors that have a positive effect on student learning and align our financial resources in that direction. We need to know each student, identify the needs of each student, and then fund the needs of each student before we fund anything else. Furthermore, our teachers are innovative, bright, hardworking, and dedicated. As teachers, we collaborate with colleagues, parents, students, and administration. As we move forward and new state mandates need to be enacted, not only should teachers be on action committees, but their experiences, ideas, and perspectives need to be valued at the administrative level. Respect costs nothing, however, it has a big payoff. Thank you for your time and service, and here's to a great last 18 days of school.
Good evening, board members, President Lane, Superintendent Yuster, and administrative leadership. Most importantly, I'd like to welcome the teachers, my fellow teachers behind me. If you give me a little wave, these are the ones who fulfill our motto. These are the ones who serve every student every day. Well, last night, I was going through the board packet and paying a lot of attention to agenda item 15C. That's the agreement, the hiring agreement with the new superintendent. And the first thing that I found that was a change was a car allowance, $4,800 a year to pay for a car. And as I examined things more carefully, I was able to figure out that $205,000 represents a 4% increase over our current superintendent's salary. 4% plus the perks, that's 6.5%. And well, we're in the middle of negotiations right now, and I think the number 6.5 sounds great, as long as there's enough to go around. But guys, I've been to the meetings, and there's not enough to go around. We need to figure out places to get this money back. And I've got a suggestion, right? The CUTA is always ready to work with you, work hard, come up with creative solutions. So I would like the board to consider saving $250,000 to $300,000 by not filling the curriculum development director positions at the district office. There is no need to cut away from the students when there's hiring doesn't happen away from the students. The Common Core specialist team at the high school, teachers and site administrators, put together a slam dunk curriculum for Common Core that was implemented and has been developed further. Unfortunately, there's no funding for Common Core specialists next year. So let's save money, empower teachers to develop curriculum at their sites where it's most effective. In this district, there has never been effective top-down curriculum. It just doesn't work in a place where there is one high school. We have a curriculum expert who's been hired as the principal of Cunha. No need to hire at the district office. You have James Barnes working at Cunha. He can develop a Common Core team there to take care of these very issues. I lost my place. Yeah. All in all, a district like this, it needs to empower the teachers. They need to save money. We have a proven track record of developing and implementing curriculum. It needs to stay at the sites. Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, Sean and Kathy, for speaking on behalf of the teachers today. So item 10B, CSEA representative. Thank you very much, Stig.
Good evening, Board President, Board members, Superintendent, and administrators. First off, CSA, I want to thank the Board for bringing in all stakeholders in the process that was very open and transparent, what I could see, to selecting a new superintendent. Me and other stakeholders was invited last week by the Board to meet Alameda Unified School District counterparts to ask questions. And what I heard there, I liked. What I heard about Dr. Sean McPadrich, I think his name is that his inclusiveness was a big part of his theme. And that is something that I think we heard here tonight, it's very important. We also have, I actually looked up in the dictionary, I'm Swedish, so I sometimes need to find out what does it mean to be inclusiveness. It means the practice or policy of including people who might otherwise be excluded or marginalized, such as those who have physical or mental disabilities and members of minority groups. He also worked with the city to create low-cost housing for teachers and staff. We'd like to thank Dr. Sean McPadrich, Alameda CSEA, and staff for being there answering our questions and for their hospitality. I was looking a little around. I always do my research, and I found an article when he started working from being an interim superintendent to be a selected superintendent for Alameda Unified School District. The union said they called him the most honest, accessible, caring, and praised him for rebuilding a relationship with the community and district staff. Karen Keegan, the president at that time, said he has brought back heart into Alameda Unified School District. And the union, when we spoke to them, when we were there, they think the same thing still today. CSA think that the board did an excellent choice for candidate to be the new CUSD superintendent. So we as CSA are going into the negotiation on June the 3rd. And it's been a long process that started last spring, and hopefully can reach an agreement so support staff get the long-awaited raise. The same at least that the teacher get from July the 1st last year. And I checked up the living wages in San Mateo County. It's $42,813 before tax for one person. We need to go to range 26 in our pay scale to even get close to that pay. If I look at the campus security at high school and at the Cunha elementary, they start at range 9, which is about $13.50 an hour. And in these days, with our security concern and things we have today, we need to prioritize safety in our schools. I mean, today you can go and flip a burger at McDonald's and make more money. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. Okay, moves us to item number 11, reports, information, and presentations. We'll start with 11A, schooling services report.
Hi, it's my pleasure to introduce Caroline Morton and Krista Banizek, our SLS directors, and they're going to be providing to you an overview of our SLS services in the school district, which is a part of our comprehensive mental health services that we provide. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you. Good evening, President Lang, Superintendent Euster, and fellow board members. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to share with you a very special program to my heart, Schooling Services, a wellness program of the Cabrillo Unified School District. Just to give you a little history, Schooling Services has been part of the Cabrillo Unified School District since about 2004. I started here with the district in 2005, and Krista joined a few years later. At that time, we were serving only Fairlawn View, Hatch, El Granada, and Cunha. Mind you, my hours, it was 20 hours a week, spread out within, that's when I started. So it's about 4 hours per school. We doubled that when Krista joined. And then in 2015, we submitted a proposal for yet another expansion. And in 2016, 2017, we expanded the program. We're in year 3 of the rollout of the expansion. And the expansion includes a postgraduate internship component. And so we have 7 post-grad MFT, MSW interns. So we're able to have counselors on every single school site. So today, because of Schooling Services, we're now serving all 4 elementary schools, Cunha, Half Moon Bay High School, and Pilarcitos. So the focus in the expansion of Schooling Services is to create the 3 branches of wellness. And so think of this as sort of an umbrella of wellness within the school district. The focus is intervention, prevention, and education. So when we look at prevention, we're looking at Tier 1 intervention. Classroom workshops, relational aggression workshops for all of the 2nd grade classes, mindfulness workshops for all of the 7th grade classes, teacher-staff consultations. Krista and I are available. The interns on site are also available for consultation. Staff wellness group. Last year, we started a staff wellness group. We had about a total of 30 staff members that participated. This year, we paused because we were trained for year 2, and next year we're going to actually offer 2 different levels of staff wellness for our community staff members, teachers. And then we started a student intervention team meetings. An intervention component is one-on-one individual short-term counseling and group counseling at every school site, available to all of the students of our community, referred by teachers, administrators. We offer case management and parent education. And as part of the education component, we collaborate with community members. We've helped collaborate and put together a community-wide wellness fair last year, educational workshops. We just recently did a transition to middle school workshop, community partnerships, and professional development. I've presented to various schools on trauma-informed practices and how to best support students. This is just a little snapshot of some of the counseling rooms at the various school sites. Thanks to money allocated through the various schools, we have been able to supply the counseling rooms with therapeutic board games, art supplies, sand trays, making it very accessible and welcoming to students in distress. And so this is just giving you a little snapshot of how many students and families we've reached this school year. So we still have some more weeks to go. When Krista and I were providing the service before the expansion, typically we would serve about 100 unduplicated students per school year. So now we've increased that. So for individual counseling and groups, 243 unduplicated students per school year. With our classroom workshops, 486 students are being served, and through parent education, 105 students. And this is for this school year, and we have been short-staffed, so we actually have been down 1 intern at Hatch. One piece that I think is really exciting that Schooling Services has brought to the community with the expansion is the student intervention team meetings. And so what we've done is that Krista and I attend meetings at every school site twice a month, including a representative from Schooling Services, an administrator, counselors, and psychologists. And what we do is we identify high-risk students, we strategize on interventions, and we set action items. So we identify what we need to do, and we allocate the assignment of who needs to do what. We document, so we have accountability, and we refer back to our meetings. Another piece that I think is really exciting as we further develop Schooling Services is creating more staff wellness to help prevent burnout, to provide support to our staff community through professional development. I really look forward to continuing further professional development around trauma-informed practices. I think that's a very important and key element in working with our student population. Also rolling out and expanding the wellness program, and always available for teacher consultation as well. And so this is our Schooling Services team for this year. Our interns, we're going to be losing some interns and hopefully hiring some new ones for the following year as well. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions. All right.
Are there any questions from the board? I do have one, but I'll go last. Do you have a question?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Thank you for all you do. I know that this is very valuable. And you described how you track. Is built into your system, is there any way to get feedback or to know the impact you're having?
Client satisfaction forms, you mean, in terms of so we've had pre and post tests that teachers have completed. That I think that's an area that we could definitely expand, and client satisfaction forms that even are appropriate for the students to complete as well.
And we also contact the parents before and after we work with the students, so we have pretty good communication with the teachers as well. So just to get some idea on how the kids are doing in the classroom. So it's a very collaborative process.
That was my question as well. I think it is a great opportunity to help kind of figure out which areas do we expand in and which areas do we leave behind, because there's always, learnings along the way, and the needs evolve along the way too. So I think that's a great thing that you guys are starting to look into that. And I want to echo Kim's comments, around the things for all that you do every day, and a lot of it's sometimes behind the scenes and not at the forefront. And I appreciate you being here so that we can recognize and appreciate all that you guys are doing and coordinating with always the limited resources. So thank you for that. So was there any further questions or comments? Lizette?
I also want to thank you for everything that you do for the families in the community, and I noticed you have a partnership with the community. I'm just curious, is there, you partnered with anyone in the community with the, anything to do with immigration or anything of that matter, with raids or just getting families, just numbers of contacts, just general information?
Well, actually, I think she's left. So we actually, I am very excited about a partnership with ALAS, and I guess I'll just put it out there, sort of this fantasy idea. I think one of the elements that I feel would really enhance schooling services is a component that includes home visits and family support. So schooling services is a school-based program, and so I've been speaking with Belinda and Demarius with ALAS about collaborating so that we could provide the school-based services, and they could provide the family and home-based visits. And so if we're working with a student, they could be working with the parents, and we can have a collaborative effort. And I think that could really address a lot of the I think there are some gaps where we might be doing some work with the student in the schools, and because it's sometimes hard, like if we're working at Fairlawn View, it's hard for parents to travel all the way to Fairlawn, and so we don't have the capacity. I'm 20 hours a week, Chris is 20 hours a week, to be able to also do home visits, and so that's a collaboration that I'm really excited about. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Good, thank you very much, both. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. So item 11B, Dyslexia Committee recommendations. Dr. Bailey.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Euster. I'm very excited to welcome my Dyslexia Advisory Committee for Cabrillo Unified School District, and my partners in this work are going to join me at the podium as we share with you our really good work around supporting students in literacy in the district. So I'm going to move off and introduce you to Laura Butterfoss.
Hi, good evening, board members, superintendent, and administrators. My name is Laura Butterfoss. I'm an educational specialist at CUNY. And the rest of our team members, we have Thea Wallach, Rachel Sage, Marianne Benson, Chris Stobie, Misty Veloso, me, Diane Siegel, principal at Kings Mountain, Martha Ladd, principal at El Granada, Anya Leva, who's not here tonight, Emily Jobson, who is a parent, and she's also a former education specialist as well, Shannon Murray, and of course Holly. And we are made up of education specialists and general education teachers, and we've been working together all year on this. Okay. Oh, I do this. Okay. That's us. Sorry, you didn't see that. Okay. Okay, so like other districts in California and across the country, we were charged to develop a process and procedures at Cabrillo that we're going to identify and address dyslexia. And we're going to go more about that. But we need to ensure that all students are reading on grade level in this district. So we are going to recognize the responsibility for teaching students with dyslexia, and it's shared both by general education teachers and by educational specialists who are assigned to work with that student. We attended a dyslexia summit back in November, and a cognitive neuroscientist there presented that the biomarkers in children's brains have dyslexia there by the age of 4, and that intervention is critical at an early age, especially K1. And after that, the effectiveness of that intervention drops 50% per year. So waiting for a student to be identified as having a specific learning disability might be a little too late for some of these students. We're here to present a research-based multisensory approach and program that's going to be benefiting all students. So one of the success stories that I have is a student of mine that I'm using a multisensory systematic approach to teaching how to read. He's a 6th grader at CUNY. He was the lowest reader in my class. He had had a history of behavior problems, had been sent to or at least one other elementary school here so he could be put into a classroom that was going to meet his needs. But then in Mexico, when he went back there, they dropped him 2 grade levels below. He was a 4th grader, and they brought him down to the 2nd grade classroom. But he came to me. He was very strongly motivated in the program that I was using, that we, the education specialist, got trained in at the beginning of the school year. And I'm very happy to say I had his IEP last month. He went up 4 years in reading. His mother was crying at the IEP, saying she thought he would never change. His behavior issues have all disappeared. He is a model student. At the beginning of the school year, he couldn't read the word wide, W-I-D-E. And when I assessed him recently, he read me the word enumerate, which was on the 7th grade reading list. So we're going to move on to hear more, but that's just one of the stories. That student, you can, if you're going to be at Cunha tomorrow, we have our Cub Luncheon where we identify students that are, making Cunha great, and he's my representative there at the luncheon that I get to honor.
My name is Rachel Sajan. I'm a reading intervention teacher at Farallon View Elementary School. And I'm going to explain a little bit about dyslexia and try to define it for you all. Dyslexia is a specific learning disability that's neurological in origin. So it may exhibit itself as difficulty with word recognition, struggling with decoding, which is like sounding out words, fluency, spelling, comprehension, or other reading difficulties. A common misconception about dyslexia is that it's a visual disability or disorder, where letters are moving around on a page, or that you're seeing B as a D, and those reversals they are common, but it's actually a neurological disorder. And we're going to show you some brain scans on the next slide that'll explain that a little bit more. But with appropriate instruction and intervention, brain patterns can actually begin to change, and activity in the different processing centers in the brain can increase. So I want to tell you a little story about some of my students. So I started working with 4 kindergarten students, and two of them hadn't been in school, so they were new to school, and they were really struggling. They weren't recognizing letters, they didn't know letter names, they didn't know letter sounds, they weren't close to reading at all. So I started taking them. I had them for 6 weeks. We worked on letter names, letter sounds, multisensory, really systematic, following the same pattern every day. They never got bored. They were super excited about it. When I assessed them again after 6 weeks, almost all of them had all of their letter names, all of their letter sounds. They were blending words, so they would see like the letters K, C, A, T, and blend it out K, at, cat, and say the word cat. And they were excited about reading. They were like, when do we get to read a book? So when it was time for them to go back to their classrooms and not work with me anymore, and in their homerooms, their teacher was astounded by the progress they made in such a short time. And it was that systematic multisensory intervention that really made the difference. And we're not just talking about 4 students here. Those were my 4 examples, but 15 to 20% of people have signs of dyslexia. And even more than that, have some kind of reading disorder or difficulty. At our district, that's 600 or more kids. So we know it's not a reflection on intelligence, effort, or desire, but by giving multisensory instruction and systematic instruction, we can help increase that desire and that motivation to read as kids build confidence. And I got the brain picture.
Right. As I looked at the slide I got and I thought about it, I thought, well, what is this saying to us? And what does this tell us and inform us about where we need to go and the direction we're going in? So we are just beginning to understand how brains develop and learn. And by understanding what's going on in the brain, scientists are hoping to better able to develop interventions that focus on brain regions involved in dyslexic children and who successfully learn to read. So as you look up at this slide, and I know you're looking at me and you don't, maybe on your laptops you can see, the brain on the left, the left frontal region is larger because that is a compensatory area of the brain that is used with dyslexic children who struggle and have less strength in that left temporal parietal region, which is on the right brain in the blue. So, brain research suggests that some children with dyslexia are able to use that frontal region of the brain to successfully compensate for their weaker left temporal parietal region used for decoding phonics. And this is a new and exciting frontier, and we'll offer lots of answers to our questions about the best practices to ensure that every child becomes a successful reader. And with the new interventions and with using them with fidelity and continuity, we can hope that all of our dyslexic students and struggling readers will be successful. And I can tell by listening to just these brief testimonials, we are on our way.
Hello. Oh gosh. There. Oh, of course. So you might be wondering right now, why now? We're all educators. We've been teaching children to read for hundreds of years. Why are we talking about this today? And the answer is in this Assembly Bill 1369. So this is a 2015 bill that is recently being digested, so to speak, across California. And just going back in my own history as an educator, I received my bachelor's, I went back for my master's, I received my master's to become a California reading certified teacher. Nothing was mentioned of dyslexia. The word wasn't used. It was seen to be a word that is a doctor's diagnosis and not an educator's language, and we were actually advised not to say that word. So, of course, as a reading intervention teacher, I was curious. I started Googling, getting books, taking classes, and all of a sudden this law pops up, and oh, yes, this is what we need. So it's very exciting. It's this something we've been waiting for. And this Assembly Bill comes with the California Dyslexia Guidelines. You can Google this, you'll get this massive document. I meant to bring it. It's really good. It really is. California did a great job. They've worked with the experts, the brain research women that was at our symposium. They've done a great job. And it has many chapters, but 4 of the chapters are bulleted there for you. It characterizes a student with and without dyslexia. It explains what we're really looking for. So for example, we could hear the sounds t, e, ch, and in our brains, oh, teach. But to a dyslexic young learner, that's really hard. That's like magic. And so as educators, we need to work with them, not on the print. I'm not talking about reading sounds, but rather just on a sound level. That's step 1. Then, how do we even make those sounds for t, each? There's EA in there, there's a CH, there's a lot. So the work that we do when we're teaching students with dyslexia is making that all very explicit. The other piece is it's harder for the dyslexic brain pattern to recognize words, so they might struggle to sound out teach on 4 or 5 pages, whereas other readers might be able to just, oh, I learned that on the last page, let's move on. It also, when we're talking about what we're looking at in a person with dyslexia, it doesn't only come with the challenges, it comes with some really awesome strengths. So we see really amazing spatial thinking, interconnected reasoning, narrative reasoning. A high number of dyslexic people end up being architects, engineers, CEOs, very, very successful humans, but they're very big picture thinkers, and the nitty-gritty detail of reading, that's hard. So that's what this bill is here for us to learn more about. Going down to bullet number 3, strategies to support students with dyslexia. We've learned, well, let me take one step back and say, I work with some all fabulous educators in teaching literacy. We have a strong teaching staff, but now we know the next step. So we have some very specific strategies in how to reach this 20%, 15 to 20%. And the strategies, luckily, are not just beneficial for the dyslexic brain, they're beneficial for all of our brains. So examples of this are, as we've said, systematic, cumulative, very explicit, really explaining what we're teaching, and multisensory. You see all of us up here tapping out our fingers. If you walk into my classroom, you'll see children writing in the sand. They're moving colored blocks around.
They're moving magnets around. They have little symbols, ah. So a little anecdote as they're learning their sounds. I had a reader reading about building a tree house. They had to cut down a tree, and he stops after he says cut. And he looks at the word, and he goes, ah. And he put all these multi-sensory things together to suddenly, oh, it doesn't say cut, it says chop. So this is what we're talking about. It also, this assembly bill has us identify these students, and so part of it that you'll see is having a screener so that we're able to find and reach and teach the children who need it. Okay, now's the hard part. Good. As a committee, our objectives for the next school year is to continue our work. We've really just begun. We're feeling that we have a chance for much success, but it will take time to implement. We're all excited to keep going. We have a really amazing team that we've put together. And we look forward to also being able to monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of the plan to improve in a continuous cycle. And part of the plan involves ongoing parent education. So this word dyslexia will be new for many parents. So there'll be ongoing parent workshops, what this is, what are these strategies to shed light for parents in our community.
Okay, I'm slide 8. And this slide represents the elements of our multi-tiered plan that will allow us to identify and respond to our students and their literacy needs. Of course, first, as Shannon was mentioning, we're going to have a universal screener. The universal screener is essential for 2 reasons. The first reason, of course, is really obvious. It gives us data about each of our individual students. We're really able to see trends among small groups and large groups of students. So that's super important. But the other thing is that it identifies for us and provides insight to us into how we might shift our intervention practices to meet the needs of students where we're seeing that where they have challenges and needs. And then from there, from the universal screener, we move on to our universal supports, or Tier 1 supports, which are found in our general education classrooms. And basically, they are our foundational structures to support literacy, our foundational practices, and our foundational tasks and activities. Another way to really look at this is it's how our classroom is set up and what it looks like, and then what the teacher does, and of course what the students do. One of an example of this is of a support that we have for children that we're just rolling out now is Learning Ally, which has a library of 80,000 titles, which reads books to children in a human voice, not a robotic voice. And the importance of that is that while children are learning to read, especially in the older grades, that they have the comprehension skills to understand complex text, but they are reading text or learning that phonological piece in texts that are sort of below grade level. So this still allows them to pull that comprehension piece along, to have access to really complex skills at their or above their grade level, while they're bringing the other piece into play. Tier 2, as we move down the bullets, Tier 2 and Tier 3 are our intervention supports, which would be initiated by a referral to the child's study team process. This process allows us to see what's gone before in the Tier 1 practices and then to set up interventions. And some of the things that we're looking at is that Tier 2 may be defined as our intervention specialist pushing in, and Tier 3 may be defined as our intervention specialist pulling children out of the classroom for a more intense intervention. When we look at our tier interventions, just as a reminder, the Tier 1 is supposed to reach 70 to 80% of our children. The Tier 2 interventions would reach about 10 to 15% of our children, with Tier 3 reaching about 5 to 10% of our kids. So that would leave, when we get to that point of Tier 3, that group of kids, and we're still finding struggles or are not enough progress, that would then trigger a referral to our special education process through our special education team, including our school psychologists, speech and language specialists, and our education specialists. These are sort of what we have defined as our essential elements for our successes. We convened our work in October, and I have to say, for me, I was really a little bit overwhelmed at the task set before us. And when we had our full day of work together, where we brought everything together, I think that all of us really felt a sense of excitement about what we were going to be able to do for our children. But as a team, we landed on these things as sort of our guideposts, that we have realistic and achievable expectations, that leadership is at all levels, starting at the district office, our site administrators, and of course, our teaching peers. And then committing resources that do utilize best practices or most up-to-date practices that we have. And then, as Shannon was mentioning, clear and timely communication with all of our parents, clear explanations about all the new educational terminology, and then ongoing training for staff as we roll this out over a couple of years. I've approached the board before. It's always our goal to send children on their way with a deep-seated love of learning and a willingness to follow where that love leads. And this work that we've done is going to be removing barriers for children so that this is possible for them. And that's why this work's been so important. I want to thank Holly, who's been our fearless leader in this process, and all the people that we've been working with. It's just been a tremendous effort, and we do feel really excited at what we believe we're going to be able to do in the coming years. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
I just had two questions, kind of follow up. You mentioned that some of the strategies for helping kids with dyslexia learn are also good for other kids. So is that then the component where you'll be working with classroom teachers on those in general? If you could maybe comment a little bit more on that. And the second question had to do with the screening process, and if we looked at all at English language development and the issues with that in regards to the screening. I don't know if there's been research done or if that provides a complication in any way. So those are kind of my two.
So we have, if we keep having this problem with the cart and the horse and the cart and the horse, right? And so what we've kind of landed on is the first piece is to really look at the intervention piece, which will give us expertise from our intervention teachers. And from there, we would be able to create professional development opportunities for staff. The big area where this is going to be super important is going to be in the K through 2 range. But there's also intervention, some of the components that we've looked at go K through 5, and then also 5 through 8. So that we'll be able to sort of catch everybody up all the way up through 8th grade. And then the second question about
English language learners and whether or not with the screenings, is there any way to account for that, or is there any research that's been done on dyslexia? Do you test them in Spanish, or I was just curious how you kind of
Yes, so this universal screener that we've been looking at has, we can test children in English and we can test children in Spanish, so we'll be able to work with that. And we'll be.
So you're ruling out that it's English language development that's the issue, because you're not testing them in English, you're testing them in their native language.
Right,
Okay.
and even when we get to the special ed piece, that is a big part of what a special ed assessment does, is rule out if it's a language issue or a specific learning disability.
I just want to commend you all for the work. This is great. It's really important to be identifying this early. I think you all know that. It's those kids who get lost and then by 3rd grade feel like they aren't as smart as others because they have this. And at that point, it can be harder to catch up. So I think this is really wonderful that we're beginning this process.
Thank you.
So thank you all for your hard work.
Can I comment on the Tier 1 intervention as well? So we have on our committee some very brave pioneers who are general education teachers who we anticipate will attempt to move some of this work forward in that Tier 1. We thought about lots of different ways to roll it out, and because of the size and the scope of the work, we decided that we would look for interested volunteers to do that first year phase. We're also looking at, and Anna Leva at Hatch has been piloting materials, the only materials that exist for English language learners, which are called Esperanza, and those are developed by a speech and language specialist in Texas. And we're working with them right now to see if they can come and train for 2 days. We would have to seek partnership with other districts because of the cost, but that's a 2-day training, and our staff, there's 2 different programs in Esperanza. One is called WELLS, and one is called Esperanza, and they're for English language learners. using multisensory techniques. They are the only materials that exist. So we're hoping that we can partner with other districts and bring those folks out here in June. If not, I think that's some work that we need to talk about next year, because that's specifically designed for our students who have that English language component in their learning as well. So there, had to add that, because that's cool.
Yes, it is.
Can you talk to me a little bit more about the screening? Is it a computer program? Is it a person? And are you just screening dyslexia, or are you looking for other learning disabilities as well?
The universal screener that we're looking at is called DIBBLES, and it is an actual screener. It's not really a diagnostic, and it's administered in one-to-one, and it could take 5 to 10 minutes per student to get. And then and then we can enter the data, and then of course sort it any way that we want to sort it, and then also be able to track over time.
So the critical part about the screening is that our plan is to bring together a team of screeners that will travel from school to school to school. It will be the same screeners who will be trained to use DIBBLES with efficacy, and they will screen all of the K through second graders in the district in September. We'll have that data, and then we'll screen again in January and in May. So we will be continuously screening. For students who are identified at risk, they will be screened more often to make sure that we're monitoring their progress.
And just screening for dyslexia, or are they looking for other things as well?
It's screening for it's a screening for literacy skills.
So that would be in addition to like Fontes and Pinnell evaluations. Well, I first want to just start off, again, thank you for the hugely informative presentation. I think I learned much more about dyslexia than I ever knew before, and to even know that up to 20% of our population, and therefore our students, are affected by it, it's a huge number to think about, 500 or 600 kids. And I will add that sometimes dyslexic children go on to be governors of states like California too, so I just want to throw a bone to Gavin Newsom for all his work and support for our children and our families too. So my question is to make sure I understand the interventions and the tiering. So when you say tier 1, that's general education, that's in the classroom with the primary teacher. And then tier 2, that's a push in, you said, is that reading intervention coming to the student in the classroom or nearby classroom, I guess, physically. And then tier 3, is that mean that they're moving to a special education setting, so like day classes at El Granada typically?
Well, no, a tier 3 would be the reading specialist would pull out the student from their general class just to meet in a small group away from the classroom.
Okay, so otherwise it literally push-in happens in the classroom.
So, and this is an area that the committee will continue to noodle.
So this is like the thinking, the plan, not in place right now.
That's right.
Okay,
So
all right,
phasing in a project like this again, the number one thing that we don't know, which is an identifier which we won't know until September, how many students are we talking about?
Yeah.
And so we won't be able to implement tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 with efficacy until we determine what that number is.
Situation better.
Correct. So tier 2 could continue as a pull-out intervention, depending on the number of students. And again, this is where the experts that I was graced with on this advisory committee will come into play, because they will be able to determine at the site level which is the best model for the students that they're serving.
That makes sense. And my last question is with regards, if I recall, there was a professional development for teachers this year, right, around dyslexia? Am I remembering correctly from the plans? If so, what was that like, and how did it go, and what was the feedback? Or am I misremembering?
So we did several things this year. The county sponsored a dyslexia conference twice this year, so everyone on our advisory committee, I believe, was able to attend that, which was a full day of experts, and I think everyone agreed that that was super helpful. We also will be sending our reading intervention teachers to the structured literacy workshop that will be convening the first week of school. So for 5 days, all of our reading intervention teachers will learn about structured literacy, which is really foundational in understanding how to teach reading. So that's very exciting. We also sent a group of education specialists to a Wilson reading training in first week of school. And we partnered with another school district who was providing that training. The cost of professional learning and organizing and navigating everyone to be available, we were grateful to be able to partner with that district, and we were able to to train quite a few of our education specialists at that time.
Okay, great. So the training so far has been for the committee and the education specialists out there, not for the general education setting yet, which makes sense as far as you get power
Correct.
users first and then.
Correct, except for we do have, obviously, very interested people at all of our schools around dyslexia and teaching reading in general. So I think efforts have been made by principals to continue that learning. And so we have, this type of a movement. I think at this point, we're looking at who knows who, and bringing in your friends and seeing the output of really efficacious teaching and the output for kids. And so I think we're gonna do kind of a grassroots sort of movement where there's a lot of excitement out there about what the tools that are Orton Gillingham based or multisensory can do and can provide for kids.
And so all that deployment would be kind of going hand in hand with language arts curriculum development or deployment and integration.
So another area for us to work on, yes.
Sounds great.
Well,
Thank you very
and
much.
we're just finishing up our professional development plans, and at El Granada, our primary teachers really wanted to dig into phonics instruction. So a lot of what Nicole is going to be experiencing, our reading intervention teacher, she's going to be able to bring back to our teachers to start, and then our upper grade teachers will be working on grammar and conventions with our upper grade kids. So there's a lot of buzz and a lot of excitement about trying to bring these strategies on board as soon as possible.
You said you're gonna have like a team, and then this team is gonna go district-wide and screen the kids. I'm just curious, will they be teachers, will they be, I'm just curious.
So we have that work to do, but the idea being that our reading intervention teachers would be moving from campus to campus.
So they'll be teachers.
Mhm.
And will there be somebody bilingual, just in case it needs to be?
We have a bilingual reading intervention teacher.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then my other question is, I know that you said that the priority is from K to second. I just lost that, and I can't turn it off. You said it was priority, which makes sense, the data. It's priority to get them earlier than later. But then what about, when will you start assessing like the ones after, maybe after second grade, but still elementary? Like how will you do that?
So our committee had some very passionate conversations about what about the third grade students and the fourth grade students and the fifth grade students. So we feel very confident in the work that Laura has been doing at Cunha, and that will expand to another teacher at Cunha. Next year he'll be trained in Just Words as well. So they'll have 2 teachers trained in the multisensory approach. We struggled with third graders, we struggled with fourth graders, and we struggled with fifth graders. So that's ongoing work about how you go and grab those kids back and screen them and provide that. Right now, that work is the reading intervention teachers, but it really tricked us because we want to make sure we get everybody, and at the same time, you have to be thoughtful about how you're going to phase an intentional effort. So
and how would you, so right now there's no set plan for like the third, fourth, and fifth graders?
So the materials, when we visited another school district and we met with the representative from the particular reading materials that we were looking at, and she said that sometimes school districts do, as they're providing their intervention K2, they go ahead and screen the third graders and then provide that intervention as well. They will continue to receive intervention. I'm just going to look at my teachers from the reading intervention teachers, third, fourth, and fifth graders.
I think it's only up to
Third grade.
And we do have the diagnostic of the Fountas and Pinnell work that we do to help those struggling readers along. And then we still have Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 interventions at all of our grade levels.
So as you can see, it's a moving challenge because our kids don't stop growing for us to get our act together. So we definitely wanted to be very targeted in that first part, and then talk about, I think at the site level we'll continue. One of the experts I'm sure would have a better answer than me.
I think one of the things I wanted to just share, because next month, I'll be presenting the local control accountability plan, and there are a lot of services that we're offering to support literacy across the K-12, TK-12 spectrum, and so those services are going to be continuing, and we're working on those. I think that the work in particular of the dyslexia committee is to look at how can we really look at this particular type of screening, match it with services that are going to be really effective. Let's try it with this particular group right now. And I think that's partially why we don't want to have the next steps yet, because we need to see how effective we're going to be. And when we get that information next year, through that, then we can decide, okay, well, if this is really effective, let's continue to expand. If it's not as effective, then we need to think really quickly about how we can strategize to change our plan. So I think that our intent is definitely to expand the support and make sure that screening is available for all students, but we want to make sure that we are starting off with a target group first, and then once we check how that progress is going for them with the interventions that we're providing, then we can think about how we scale that up to other grades and then other groups.
That makes complete sense, and I totally agree. I just would hate for us to wait and have these kids fall into the gaps.
Right, right.
Wait for something that could have happened earlier, because as a parent, I've had a fall in the gap student, so I'm just concerned about that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much. Discussion items, there are none tonight, so we'll go to item 13, communications, starting with board members. I'll start to my right.
Yep. Just checking where we were on the agenda. So I did finally start getting back to my school site visits, and so I want to thank the high school, Cunha, El Granada, and Fairlawn View and Hatch. I think I doubled up on one of those. So yes, I've been to Fairlawn View, Hatch, El Granada, the high school in Cunha since the last board meeting, and have visits scheduled at Kings Mountain for next week, and then still working on assigning one for Pilarcitos. And I'm so happy to be back doing them. I didn't do them in the fall because I was campaigning for school board, and I didn't want to misconstrue my coming to the school sites at the same time as I was campaigning, and I really miss them. So it's quite nice. I go in and I bring goodies each time, and I sit down in the staff room and have lunch, and anybody who wants to come in can come in and chat. And sometimes we chat about issues and what they're feeling about the school or other things, and sometimes we just chat about children and what we did on Mother's Day. So it's an opportunity for them to meet me, and also to know that if they ever have other issues, that I'm open and accessible. And so I will begin doing it twice a year again, starting this fall as I finish up. So, but thank you for the principals as well. I get to meet with them each for half an hour. Although Cesar, I will respond to you and set up that meeting. Unfortunately, he couldn't be there the day I was at Fairlawn. And I get to find out kind of what's going on with them and what's happening with their school sites from their perspective. So that's been great. And I think that's all. We're heading to see Jerry Hill tomorrow, and AB 39 passed through its first committee, and there was a vote today. I haven't yet heard back whether or not it passed through its second committee in the assembly. Still really hopeful that that'll get going, and hopefully we'll get an update from Senator Hill tomorrow when we meet with him. And I think that's all. We'll have another meeting before the end of summer.
Thank you. I know, I don't have it. I've been very busy being a mom and working as a supervisor in my job, so it's been hard for me to go out and do these site visits, which I probably won't get to go to all the sites by the end of the school year, but I hope to the next school year. I've just mostly been involved in my daughter's school. I know I came after work and helped set up for the teacher appreciation lunch that we do every year on the end of the week. We have the ELD parents come and put a big just a big feast for all the teachers, and so I was busy doing that, and then not doing much, sorry. But I'm really excited. We're gonna do the fun run. Well, I'm gonna walk it. I'm gonna do the fun walk. Just a couple of things, and then the graduation, the ceremony. So I was really bummed that I didn't get the email on time, or let me rephrase that. I was really bummed that I did not open my emails on time, and I wasn't there for the Hatch
I guess, recognition for the for reclassification, because that's something very personal to me as a ELD student myself and a mother of an ELD student who's also waiting to get reclassified someday soon. So, thank you for letting me know, and if I can be of any help or support to anyone of the principals, please feel free to contact me. That's it.
It's okay, it doesn't work for me either. I'm looking forward to Jerry Hill's meeting tomorrow also. It will be interesting to hear what he has to say firsthand. I enjoyed going to Coyote Fest last week, and I'm telling you, go to Coyote Fest next year, because some of the things, like if you want a scarf that's amazing at a great price, they should double their prices. But it's a wonderful opportunity to support Pillarcitos, and so it was a nice activity. I wanted to offer my gratitude to the students who came and were so brave during open session, and if Mark and I would pass on that. While we can't comment on anything that was spoken directly, I really admire the students coming during the public comment portion of a board meeting. I mean, how many board meetings do we have when we don't hear on some of these issues, and to see that a group of students took it upon themselves to come talk to us, I thought that was quite admirable. And then the last point, it is the year end is upon us, and we haven't gotten the Visual and Performing Arts ad hoc committee off the ground, so I'm hoping each principal will think about who in the administration they're interested in serving with visual and performing arts, and perhaps a PTO or parent person. And while it's not realistic to get it off the ground right now, first of the year, I think is going to be really important. I know that within the music parent committee, I was invited to an FOCIC brainstorming session. How can high school parents and the music teachers, both high school and middle school, kind of spread the word and get, work with Mr. Anderson and Ms. PS to communicate down to the elementary schools. That was the gist of the session. So they invited me to that meeting, and I really appreciated that energy and their appreciation and their awareness of how you need connectivity elementary to middle and middle to high school. So I'll certainly follow up with principals as well. Thank you.
I just wanted to thank Jane for answering my 1,225th question. Every session I have with her as a new board member with my questions seems to add 5 more questions. So every question she answers gets 5 more, and every time I sit down with her it seems to go for 3 hours, and she's willing to go longer, but my brain is full after 3 hours. So poor Jane, and the saga continues, but I can't seem to run out of questions. So thank you, Jane, for all the time you've given me. And the other thing I wanted to mention was that Cunha Band tomorrow is doing an adjudication. So they're going off in a bus tomorrow evening, and they're going to get judged and get feedback on their playing, and they get to do a sight reading clinic. And they are going to, I'm the pizza bringer, so I'm the big fan for all the kids will love me tomorrow because I'm in charge of pizza. And then they're going to watch another band and come home. So anyway, we have some exciting things going on at a school, and that's one thing I thought I'd mention.
No, I'm just getting ready because the mic takes 3 tries to get mine on, so I'm getting it like, she'll go and I'll get my mic on. how long it takes.
Well, I was going to refer to you as well, so it's perfect that you have your mic on, although you're next in the comment series. But I just wanted to acknowledge we have announced our new superintendent having been hired, and we're very excited. But to me, it is extremely bittersweet, and clearly huge shoes to fill, and we'll have many opportunities, suffice it to say, to celebrate Jane and all her achievements and accomplishments and partnership throughout the years here, and scheduling time for the community to meet Dr. McFedridge as well. But I just want to, acknowledge that that's kind of a little bit of the big news of the past week. And as I said, I think all I could think of is bittersweet. So more to come on celebrating Jane and all her achievements and answering all our, what did you say, 1,274 million? Yeah, that number times 5, plus or minus, 20% on any given day. So I just want to acknowledge that and thank you, Jane. And I also want to acknowledge it. I think there's a strong theme in tonight's meeting of inclusion, and just the fact that I've never seen this room bursting at the seams as it was tonight through various topics that people came and spoke to us about. So to me, that inclusion and that engagement of our community, though it makes for obviously a longer meeting, I think that's great. And I was always really happy to see when people feel like they are part of the process and they ought to have a voice in the decisions that we make. So thank you, thank all the folks that of course have left by now for coming up here and have the courage to come up and speak in this setting, as well as our union representatives coming up to speak about, and our teachers being here, and the dyslexia committee. I think is just fantastic to have this energy, this inclusion in our processes, and especially I feel like the topics that have come up all really do address different areas of opportunities for inclusion, and be it neurodiversity or ethnic differences and language differences. So I think that's really important and very much appreciated. So, Jane.
So it's spring. We are in the 100 days of May, as we lovingly call it. We're down to 40, 2 weeks to go. And that actually shocked me to hear how many days were left in school. It doesn't feel like yesterday when I was saying, well, 179 to go. And now we're at 18. So remarkable how the time flies. Fiesta was wonderful. That was absolutely, they got great weather at a ball. The food is always fantastic, and the kids dancing, oh, that's just precious. So it was great event. Coyote Fest also fantastic. The bands were up there and playing, and silent auction, and so it was just a lot of fun to be there. The reclassification at Hatch was lovely. I got a chance to get over there and see it, and they were cuties. They're so cute. And so it was a great ceremony. I won't get to the main district one because I'm in direct conflict, so I was delighted to get to one. It's always very nice to do. The credit union opened here. The San Mateo Credit Union officially opened. They had a grand opening, and lots of politicians and lots of folks were there. We got huge kudos from our politicians, Senator Hill and Berman's offices, thanking us for our advocacy, telling them that it's exactly what they need when they need it. So they were very pleased, so it was great to do that. We also had our incoming kindergarten night, so we got to meet the very happy but somewhat nervous incoming kindergarten parents. Always fun to ask them, how many is this your first? And the little hands kind of go up with a little, and then how many of this is your, oh yeah, I'm ready. So Joy does always a spectacular job. She explains what a backpack is and how you pack and what you pack in the backpacks. And the parents love it. They just love it, and it's a welcome to the Cabrillo community and that very special atmosphere that we have, and we have it actually take place at El Granada, so they're right there in the middle of one of the schools. So that was very nice and very well attended. I attended the spring concert at Cunha, which had the combined concert for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade band. We have a wonderful, talented group of 5th graders. There were more than 50 of them in the room at the time, and that was not all our 5th graders. We also had the sixth graders, and I absolutely adore it. One of the sixth graders' pieces is one of the classics used by the marching band at the high school. So I think they're throwing down a little challenge to the older kids. It was great to hear it. And seventh and eighth, which is going to be adjudicated, are excellent. The quality and talent of our kids is just remarkable to see. I did have the privilege of sitting next to Mr. Barnes in that concert, and part of our discussions were about how do we get the continuity and what's interesting for kids to keep them involved in the music area. So it was just a great night and a blast. I mean, you're sitting there looking at almost 100 kids out in front of us and are all playing instruments. I got to tell you that our percussion sections in the middle school are outstanding. It was really amazing. They were good. And then we had a pair of, I don't know who they are, but a pair of flautists out of 5th grade. Wow. Just wow. But they were all wow. I just, that they have the courage at that age. They were doing solos and duets, and they've only had like 20 lessons. So, I was so proud of them. It was just a delight. And then finally, the superintendents, as part of the creation of our local control accountability plan, our strategic plan, the superintendent's parent advisory committee actually gets the first look at the proposed actions and services. They're the first people that we talk to, and actually the last people we talk to before it comes to the board. Each year that group has gotten better and better and better as they've gotten more involved and more educated on the process. It was a fabulous meeting. We had a wide variety. We had our ELACs, we had our special ed parents, we had Pillarcitos parents, which is unusual for us to see, so it was just absolutely great. We had just a whole group. There were more than 20 people in this room. In the first meeting there was more than 30 people, so we kind of lose a few on the way, but they were great. The questions were spectacular. We had more than 2 hours of just talking with each other and talking about what's good for kids here, and they were really thoughtful, and it makes this job so much easier when we have such an active parent community and it's so willing to share with us and helps us to come together in common goals. So, and thank you to Joy, who did a fabulous job setting it up. All I have to do is show up, and Joy has the whole thing organized and ready to go. So it's been busy. It's a busy May, and now we're getting ready. I can't believe in a week and a half the first of the graduations happens. I'll still find out whether we got anybody going to go to middle college, but it's about a week and a half out now. And then shortly thereafter, another week or so, and here come the promotions and all of the ceremonies. The open houses are coming. You have a long list of stuff to read because it's all now condensing down. But here we are, winding down from another really fabulous school year.
Thank you very much, Jane. And I apologize, Lauren, because I went from A to C, skipped over B. So we'll jump back to 13B, student board member Lauren.
All right. So let's just hear what's going on around the district. El Granada is finishing up state testing this week. Teacher Appreciation Week was wonderful for everyone. We also had an amazing parent appreciation taco fiesta. It was a great way to thank all of our families and school partners for helping to make El Granada a great place to learn and grow. Yesterday was a tea and talk with Miss Ladd. We took a moment over coffee to celebrate a great year and to plan for next year. This Friday, Dolphin Club is hosting a Kid Nights Out from 6 to 8. Next week, El Granada will be having its first Arts and Science Day week. We will have a school-wide art project, a walking field trip to the beach, and on Thursday we will have the 45th annual Arts and Science Day with over 20 workshops for students to explore the arts and science. Kings Mountain School's spring music celebration was the perfect send-off to spring break. The evening started with staff singing an adaptation version of We Are Family. This year's edition of an open mic brought the house down with uninhibited, creative, and talented performances by students and families. Our return to school after spring break kicked off with a wonderfully successful Earth Day with the help of parent Scott Menery. Staff and students gathered for a brief video on the history of Earth Day, recited a pledge to the earth, followed by building and repairing beds and planting a no-waste lunch. We want to thank Venture Free Children's Center staff for the help and participation. Teachers met with Sam Drazen of Changing Perspectives to share the successful implementation and positive impact of his inclusion and empathy curriculum at Kings Mountain School. He complimented and thanked us for our work and feedback on the units. We look forward to continuing working with changing perspectives next year at Kings Mountain School. We excitedly welcomed Kim Schroeder, the third and final instructor in our arts program this year. Kim is teaching fine arts, working with students on creating rain sticks, clay tiles, and a collaborative painting of a mountain lion, our school mascot. Last week at school was one of appreciation and concentration. Staff were showered with gifts and treats during a week of staff appreciation, while our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders successfully began state testing, which was completed today. We look forward to next week's open house on Thursday, May 23rd. All are welcome to join us on the mountain. And here's the update for Hatch. The Fiesta event was held on Sunday, May 5th at Cunha. Students, parents, teachers, and community members had the opportunity to have a fun Sunday by tasting delicious food and desserts and enjoying the fun games and performances by the Hatch students. The raffle was held at the end of the event with a variety of prizes that range from a spa treatment to Disneyland tickets. Our gratitude to our SIPA group of parents that put this magnificent and successful event together. We are in the middle of state testing. Students are encouraged to do their very best when they are taking the test. PTO co-funded snacks for students. Students were provided with test-taking strategies and with tools to lower their anxiety. We know that all Hatch students will rock this test. Hatch held the reclassification ceremony this past Monday. Students that met the 4 criteria to be reclassified from ELD attended to this ceremony, as well as their family members. We had 20 students reclassified. Students were congratulated for this huge achievement. Kid Power is still in session at Hatch. Students are benefiting of these self-awareness sessions. Kid Power teaches kids how to establish and maintain their personal boundaries and how to speak up for themselves if someone doesn't respect their boundaries. Teachers participate in these workshops and have been provided positive feedback. Here's Fairlawn View's report. Ms. Diana Perucker faithfully held our last garage sale for this year. She and a handful of volunteers fulfilled our mission to protect our environment by recycling goods in the community and fundraising for the Literature Club. This will be our most beloved teacher's last year with us after almost 3 decades of community service. She has announced that she will be retiring and we will greatly miss her. Recology joined us last week to perform the ribbon cutting and inauguration ceremony of our outdoor learning space and greenhouse. We thank them for their generous contribution. Our always gracious community members and families crown our school's prestige of being one collaborative community devoted to environmental science and mindfulness. On a final note, we wish to thank our awesome PTO for organizing such fun and delicious weeks to show their appreciation for our staff. Here's the update for Half Moon Bay High School. We are in the final stretch of the school year and we have all been working our hardest to finish the school year strong. Our students completed the CASP testing at the end of April. We're finishing up our 2nd week of advanced placement testing for the students that desire to take the AP exam at the end of their course. The students that went to prom during the last weekend of April had a blast down at the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. Some students even got to enjoy a roller coaster ride in their dresses and tuxedos before entering the beautiful venue, where they kept the dance floor's energy high all night. Right, Mr. Nanzak?
Yes. The windows were shaking.
Last week we had so much fun showing our overflowing appreciation for our wonderful staff at Half Moon Bay High School. They were treated to many delicious meals and sweets throughout the week. The week of celebration ended with a luncheon provided by leadership where there were many performances, an intense raffle, great food, and goodies. Thank you to the staff of CUSD for all that you do. This Sunday from 8 to 3 p.m. will be the 2nd annual Cougar Color Run. This exciting and colorful fundraiser helps the Half Moon Bay High School Foundation, an important organization that helps support a lot of the activities happening at our high school. ASB officer elections are coming up next week. Dana Hammerstrom, Gabby Davila, and Ashley Procopio will be running for secretary. The vice president position is between Sarah Sprinkle and Brian Tejada. Christian Alvarez, Maya Bliss, and yours truly, Lauren DeBose, will be running for president, and we hope everyone has a great Memorial Day weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. Okay, that brings us to item number 14, consent items. So do we have a motion to approve consent items as presented in the packet? Do we have a second? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Passes 5 plus 1 to 0. All right, so item 15, action items. 15A, adopt fiscal year end resolution number 0819, approve appropriating ending balance to a reserve. Crystal?
So this is a housekeeping item that is usually brought this time every year. Each year, by passing this resolution, it allows the business office to perform the necessary accounting procedures without transactions without bringing each one to you, which could end up like several hundred. So this resolution allows us to move those, and then they're presented during year-end close.
So, open for discussion, questions or comments? Oh, motion for approval?
So moved.
Second? Okay. Now we'll open up to questions or comments. Seems there are none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Oh, I'm sorry, resolution, so we'll do roll call. Thank you for the reminder. So we'll do roll call because it's a resolution. So we'll start to my right, Freya? It's getting late. It's getting late. Yes, Freya. And your name is? Okay, we hear an aye from Freya. Lizette? We're just approving the resolution to conduct this administrative process for Crystal's accounting.
Oh.
So if you are in support of it, you can just say aye. Aye. Passes 5 plus 1 to 0. Item 15B, adopt fiscal year end resolution number 0919, approve budgetary increases and transfers at year end.
Yes, again, this is a house cleaning item, so as we were right in the middle towards the tail end of the budget season, we automatically roll into year end and we start the process of closing the books, which requires some transfers, sometimes in and out of funds. So this resolution allows the business office to conduct those transactions.
Good. Do we have a motion to approve? Freya, I think, motion, second? Second. Okay, Kim, second. Any questions or comments? Good, and we'll proceed to roll call vote. Roll call vote. We'll start with, on my right. Lizette? Aye. Okay, passes 5 plus 1 to 0. So item 15C, approval to award a contract for roof replacement at Cunha Intermediate School.
This is a very exciting item to be brought forth to you. The roof situations across the district have been something that both the district and the community have really sought after to fix. And so tonight, the approval of this award will replace all of the roofs at Cunha outside of C Building with a complete new roofing system. This new roofing system was vetted by our third-party waterproofing company, SGH, which has also worked with us with the remediation of Building C. So it really moves the district forward with setting a standard on making sure that the products that we use are meant for this area. So tonight I ask you to award the contract for the roof replacement, which will be completed this summer.
like how, refresh my memory, how old are these buildings and how old are these roofs that we're replacing? And is this a typical lifespan for these roofs?
The buildings were modernized in 2010, I believe, like the inside, but it was more cosmetic type of modernization, not the intense modernization that we conducted at Hatch. I do believe at that time the roofs were put on. The roofs tend to lose their lifespan when regular deferred maintenance is not performed. So it's really essential that with an investment such as these new roofs that you have, if we don't have the capacity or the ability to do the deferred maintenance on the roofs, that we make sure that we have a plan with a vendor to maintain this investment. So from what we have learned from the architect and SGH, the waterproofing consultants, that wasn't the best roof for those buildings, and the placement of things called scuppers and so forth just wasn't efficient. And what was also weird, it's like this foam roof. And so when you go on there, you see all these holes. There's like tons of holes. And you're like, how does like these little holes get on there? And then you look further down and there's birds. And the birds are picking and they're getting the foam out to eat, take to their nest, do what have you. So after time that starts to break down and removes the UVA coating and just breaks down the material of the roof.
Good to know.
Fun fact.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so this we can do an en masse vote. So all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, passes 5 + 1 to 0. Okay, item 15D, ratification of lease-leaseback agreement with Block Construction, Hatch Phase 3 Increment 4 project.
Yes.
Crystal.
So this is also a very exciting project to bring you because this is actually for the kinder complex. It's the beginning of the kinder complex. So we've had several phases and increments for Hatch, so it's kind of hard to keep track of. And those are basically assigned due to state assigned numbers to the district, so that's why we're at 3 increment 4. So back in September, the governing board approved the lease-leaseback agreement for Hatch Phase 3 with Block Construction. So the pre-construction and the design really started around then. And then the GMP is brought back after DSA has approved the plan. So I am happy to report that DSA has approved increment 4 of this phase, and so the GMP is attached. We will have, this GMP is actually for most of the site work. It's actually not for the buildings. The building GMP will most likely come back at the first June meeting.
All right, motion to approve? So, can you have a second? Second. Questions, comments? I'm going to ask a very simple question. Can you define GMP?
Guaranteed maximum price.
Thank you. Sorry, that's okay. Any questions or comments? Seeing as there are none, let's move to vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Passes 5 + 1 to 0. Thanks, Crystal. All right, item 15E, appointment of district superintendent and approval of employment agreement for district superintendent. Do you want to speak to this at all, or I can speak to it? Usually board members don't speak to them directly if you don't want to say anything, or. But you, except for one. All right.
You did a spectacularly good job.
Fantastic. Well, we spoke to this a bit earlier, and Stig also spoke a little bit earlier with regards to the process, which was outlined very in a detailed fashion in the press release. I won't go ahead and repeat that. But we have with us tonight the opportunity to appoint and accept approve the employment contract of Dr. Sean McFetridge, currently with Alameda Unified School District. We had the opportunity to bring a delegation of CSUD over there last week and meet him and his colleagues in person, and have finalized a contract for the board's approval. So do we have a motion for approval? Okay, a second? Okay. Questions or comments? Seeing as there are none, we'll move to vote, en masse vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Passes 5 + 1 to 0. Okay, thank you. Okay, so item 16, future board agenda items. A, discussion of public hearing for the LCAP, which Joy referred to earlier. Discussion public hearing of the CUSD budget. And approve the Cabrillo Unified School District Governing Board policy updates and adopt the proposed revisions as recommended by the California School Boards Association. So the next part might take me a couple minutes. Item spring, so item 17, future events, dates and requests is quite full, and it's here for folks' reference, but suffice it to say there's a lot going on in the next 4 weeks or so. Tomorrow, May 17th, Dolphin Club hosts Kids Night at El Granada. May 19th, second annual Half Moon Bay High School Color Run, which is a fantastic event. All are encouraged and to participate and have fun across the community. May 22nd, the district-wide reclassification ceremony for English learners at the Half Moon Bay High School. May 23rd, we have 2 events, the open house at Kings Mountain and the department awards night at Half Moon Bay High School. May 24th is a non-school day for students and teachers. And May 27th is a holiday closure for Memorial Day, so it's a 4-day weekend. Just as a reminder for folks, special gift. May 28th is the middle college graduation at CSM. May 29th, we have the general open enrollment application deadline, as well as the end of year assembly, yearbook dedication, legacy chords at Half Moon Bay High School. May 30th, we have the local scholarship night at Half Moon Bay High, ice cream social and open house at El Granada, open house art show and dinner at Farallon View. June 4th is a busy day with a Big Lift collaborative meeting here at the district office. The final music concerts along with June 5th at Half Moon Bay High School, and the Chamber Education Committee meeting at the district office. June 5th, Los Listos preschool promotion, and June 6th, our next regular governing board meeting here at the district office at 7 p.m. So with that, we'll go to item 18, returning to closed session, which we will do, and we'll adjourn from closed session. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.